Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, something went wrong with my computer clock. It was 9 minutes slow. So then I got bewildered. Okay. Okay, okay. Just a minute. Schedule also. Okay. What is that? Okay. Okay. Let's resume. I assume that I am audible. Okay.
Yes,
Those who are accustomed to discuss those who are accustomed to discuss spiritual matters should remember the words of the Varanasi Sannyasi as found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Paramartha vichar gelo kurimatro bad ahamukti pabo kaha krishner prasad. The atheists, headed by the Mayavadi philosophers, do not care for liberation or Krishna's mercy. They simply continue to put forward false arguments and counter theories to atheistic philosophy, not considering or engaging in spiritual matters. Let me trace out the original for this. Matthew 25:43. Matthew 25. Paramartha Vichar Gelo. Discussion on spiritual masters have disappeared. Purimatro Bhat. We only engage in argument and word judgment. Kaha Mukti Pabo. How can we get liberation? Kaha Krishner Prasad. How can we get the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna? So now this is an important concept that if we are not interested in attaining Krishna's mercy, if we are not interested in attaining liberation from material existence, and we simply engage in so many different argumentation, just officially, because you belong to the school of Krishna consciousness, then it comes under this category. It is not enough just to intellectually argue in a particular manner. We need to cultivate that knowledge, understanding, and attain realization. Useless arguments arise from envy or pride, aversion or attachment to sense gratification, or foolishness or self-pride. quarrelsome people also become intoxicated by useless arguments. Useless argumentation has a force of its own, actually. While discussing topics of the Lord and his devotees, the practicing devotee should always be careful to avoid useless arguments. On the other hand, we also notice that there are some devotees who are just averse to using their intelligence at all. Very childish. Because if one does not engage in Krishna consciousness in the correct manner, we will not attain the result. We will not attain the objective of sadhana bhakti at all. Talking without reason about other people is extremely adverse to devotion service. Or did you hear? That one got married. Or did you hear? This one is studying in such and such a place. Or did you hear? That one's got a good job. Complete waste of time. Whether we are talking about devotees or non-devotees. In Bhagavatam first canto, we come across a description of Parikshit Maharaj. And when Sutta Goswami says that King Parikshit, while he was ruling, he checked Kali. At that time, the sages, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, they say, please talk to us about Parikshit if it gives rise to Krishna Katha. So in that context, that statement is made. So even when we talk about such a great Uttama, first-class Vaishnava as King Parikshit, we should not separate him from Krishna consciousness. We should remember him in relationship with Krishna. Many people talk about others to establish their own reputation. Being envious, some people are accustomed to discuss others' character. The minds of those who are busy in such topics can never be fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Talking about others should be rejected in all respects. But in the practice of devotion service, there are many favorable topics that are faultless, even though they are about others. In order to completely renounce talking about others, one needs to live in the forest. The two different types of practicing devotees are the householders and the renunciates. Because the renunciates have no business whatsoever with sense enjoyment, they can give up talking about others in all respects. But because a householder is engaged in earning, saving, protecting, and maintaining the family, he cannot completely give up talking about others. It is best for him to live in a Krishna conscious family. When all one's material activities are related with Krishna, then even his unavoidable talk about others becomes sinless and a part of devotional practice in relation to Krishna. He should not talk about others in a way that is detrimental to anyone. This is the principle a householder Vaishnava man can adopt. He should not talk about others in a way that is detrimental to anyone, in a way that is spiritually detrimental, in a way that is materially detrimental. He should talk about others only whatever little is necessary in his Krishna conscious family. He should not talk about others without reason. Moreover, when a guru enlightens his disciple on some topic, then unless he occasionally talks about others, his instruction may not be clear. When previous Mahajanas have talked about others in this way, there is merit in such talk, not fault. As Shukadeva Goswami said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Nidraya hriyate naktam vivayena chava vaya divacharthe hayarajan kutumbam bharanena va dehapatya kalatradishwatmasainyishvatam asatswapi tesham pramatto nidhanam pashyannapi na pashyati. The lifetime of such an envious householder is passed at night, either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. Although Shukadeva Goswami talks about the materialists, in order to instruct his disciple, he is not considered a Prajalpi. He is not considered to be engaging in Prajalpa. Notice that he is talking about envious householders. Therefore, such activities should be considered beneficial. Because if you want to understand something in detail, you need to understand what to do, what not to do, why not to do, under particular circumstances. how to execute Krishna consciousness, how not to execute Krishna consciousness. So all of this, if it has to assume a concrete shape, it has to be in the context of the real world. So therefore, these references are quite useful when he refers to materialistic people on what they do and how that is, and why that is not part of your devotional service unto Krishna and so on. It's very beneficial. Again, in order to instruct his own disciples, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke about pseudo renunciates in the following words from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhu kahe vairagi kore prakriti sambhasham, dekhite na paro ami tahar bodam, shudra jeev sab markat vairag ko korea, indriya charaya bule prakriti sambhashya. Prabhu kahe more bosh, nohe more. Prakriti sambhashi vairagi na kore darashan. The Lord replied, I cannot tolerate seeing the face of a person who has accepted the renounced order of life, but who still talks intimately with a woman. There are many persons with little in their possession who accept the renounced order of life like monkeys. They go here and there, engaging in sense gratification and speaking intimately with women. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my mind is not under my control. It does not like to see anyone in the renounced order who talks intimately with women. Unless one speaks in this way while instructing and while concluding a subject, there is no benefit for oneself or others. Therefore, when the previous acharyas have personally set example and taught others, how will we be benefited by acting contrary to their instruction? And if one discusses in this way, the improper behavior current in a religious sect or amongst the general public, then such talk is not adverse to devotional service. Even if one sometimes talks about a particular person, there is no fault. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Maitreya Muni, the foremost devotee, spoke about Vena Maharaj in this way. Maitreya Vacha. Itham viparyayamati papiyan utpatham gatah anuniyamanas tadnyam nachakre vrashtamangala. The great sage Maitreya continued. Thus the king, who became unintelligent due to his sinful life and deviation from the right path, became actually bereft of all good fortune. He could not accept the requests of the great sages, which the sages put before him with great respect, and therefore he was condemned. So now he directly says that King Vena was unintelligent, sinful. He had deviated from the right path, lost all his good fortune, he was condemned. All of this he says. So is this not criticism? Are these not critical remarks? They are, but they were required. The Maitreya Rishi needed to speak about others in this way. He spoke to his audience to instruct them. This is not prajalpa. The practicing devotee normally discusses ancient history in the association of devotees. Occasionally they talk about non-devotees. Such talk is always auspicious and favorable to devotional service. There is a view that one should never criticize anyone. One should never pass critical remarks about anyone. And specifically, one should not concretely do so. We can notice here that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has rejected that idea. Occasionally, they talk about non-devotees. So when they talk about non-devotees, they'll naturally pass several critical comments about non-devotees. Such talk is always auspicious and favorable to devotional service. But those who talk about others while influenced by devotional impediments like envy, hatred, pride, or distinction are offenders at the feet of Bhakti Devi. Prabhupada is reported to have remarked very sternly about specific about certain impersonalists. Prabhupada is reported to have said, I have trained my disciples in such a manner that they will not even go to the ashrama of these Mayavadis, even to pass urine. So strict. So strict. But Prabhupada did not speak all of this out of envy or hatred or pride or distinction. It's because Mayavadi, Krishna, Aparadhi, Shankaracharya's followers, or those who claim to be following Shankaracharya, they are offenders unto Krishna. How are they offenders? Because they say Krishna's body is material, is made out of material goodness. It is a part of Maya. It is because they think all variety is a product of illusion, and they think that the variegatedness that we see in relationship to Krishna is discussed in the scriptures, and they think this is also Maya. So that's a very great offense. So therefore, in order to save us from committing such such a very dangerous offense, Prabhupada has to speak very strongly. Very often Prabhupada uses words like rascal, foolish, nonsensical, and so on. Those who are enlightened in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're very comfortable and at ease with such discussions. Those who have very weak faith in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, they get disturbed when they hear things like that. Debate arises only from a desire for conquest. It is extremely abominable. Fault finding arises only from imposing one's own bad habits on others. This should be given up in all respects. Speaking falsehoods is another form of useless talk. Speaking untruth. If we simply avoid this one activity, or even if you think that's impossible, if you begin to reduce it, you'll understand how important it is to create reliability. A community needs to function on the basis of reliability. And reliability arises when you avoid speaking something false. Even if we think that it's all right to speak falsehood for a higher cause, it is best avoided. Dangerous. Playing with fire. Worldly talk is completely rejected by renounced devotees. Householders may accept some worldly talk that is favorable to devotional service. If topics like archaeology, zoology, astrology, and geography are devoid of God consciousness, they should be rejected. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Shukadeva Goswami has said, Nusha Girasta Hyasatir Asat Katha Nakathyate Yad Bhagwan Dhokshaja Taddeva Satyam Taduhaiva Mangalam Taddeva Punyam Bhagavad Gunodayam Taddeva Ramyam Ruchiram Navam Navam Taddeva Shaswan Manaso Mahotsavam. This is Sutta Goswami. The type of mistake there. Taddeva Shokarnama Shoshanam Nam Yaduttama Shloka Yashona Giyate. Words that do not describe the transcendental personality of God but instead deal with temporary matters are simply false and useless. Only those words that manifest the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord are actually truthful, auspicious, and pious. Those words describing the glories of the all-famous personality of God are attractive, relishable, and ever fresh. Indeed, such words are a perpetual festival for the mind, and they drive the ocean of misery. Speech in the form of blaspheming sadhus is the source of great inauspiciousness. So this is very dangerous, to blaspheme, to criticize genuine Vaishnavas. Extremely dangerous. If one wants to attain devotion to Lord Hari, then he should make a vow like this. In this life, I will never blaspheme sadhus, saints. Devotees are sadhus. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a very high conception of what a sadhu is, what a Vaishnava is. By blaspheming them, all one's virtues are destroyed. By blaspheming the supremely pure Lord Mahadev, Prajapati Daksha, the best of ascetics met with severe inauspiciousness. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ayushriyam Yashodharmam Lokan Ashisha Evacha Hanti Shreyamsi Sarvani Pumso Mahat Atikramaha. Maybe a king, when a man persecutes great souls, all his benedictions of longevity, beauty, fame, religion, blessings, and promotion to higher planets will be destroyed. The conclusion of this essay is this: whatever Prajalpa is not favorable for devotional service should be carefully given up by Vaishnavas who are cultivating bhakti. Cultivating bhakti means who are growing in bhakti, who are trying to progress from sadhana bhakti to bhava bhakti to prema bhakti. Amongst these instructions, the instruction to tolerate the urge to speak, mentioned in the first verse, vacho vegam, is only a conditional urge. Conditional urge. That means when it arises, then we should tolerate. But by giving up prajalpa, the urge to speak is permanently regulated. This is a permanent regulation. The other was an incidental regulation. When the incident happens, then you do this. But now here, this instruction that one should give up prajalpa is a permanent regulation. By yourself, don't speak prajalpa. That is the point from Sri Rupa Goswami. In order to pass one's life without sin, one should not speak anything more than whatever little is necessary. One need discuss only whatever is auspicious for oneself and others. If one wants to discuss topics of others, it will simply be useless speech. Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna instructed Uddhava as follows: Parasvabhava karmani yah prasham sati nindati sa ashu rashyate swarthad asatya bhinive shataha. Whoever indulges in praising or criticizing the qualities and behavior of others will quickly become deviated from his own best interest by his entanglement in illusory dualities. Niyamagraha. It can either mean too much attachment to rules and regulations, or it can mean too much neglect of rules and regulations. Now, what exactly this means, and what exactly it doesn't mean, will be clarified by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Niyamas or rules are of two kinds: vidhis or prescriptions and nishedhas or prohibitions. Whatever is enjoined as one's duty is a prescribed rule. Whatever is enjoined as restricted is a prohibited rule. Both kinds of rules are auspicious for the living entities. When we are in the mode of ignorance and we take to Krishna consciousness, we are unable to it looks like a number of devotees are unable to even accept that Krishna is satisfied whenever you carry out the prescribed rule, and he is dissatisfied when you break the rule of prohibition. They seem to have the idea that spiritual life means beyond rules and regulations of any kind. Of any kind. So they cannot, they find it very, very difficult to understand that you need to become routinized, you need to follow certain rules, you need to do certain things, avoid certain things, and you have to do it very strictly. People who are very weak in Krishna consciousness, they simply cannot get it. I've noticed it many times. They cannot get it. They simply don't understand the simple point that these rules have been given by God, and if you break these rules, God is displeased. They simply cannot understand that. So why? God is an ocean of compassion. He's all so in this foolish with this foolish misconception, they are unable to make tangible progress in Krishna consciousness. It will be confusing that there is a way by which we attain sadhana siddhi. That's a pathway of sadhana. It is the general pathway, sadharana pratha, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in Chaitanya Shikshamrita. The general pathway. And then there is extraordinary pathway, asadharana pratha of attaining Kripa Siddhi. Now, there is no formula with which you can attain Kripa Siddhi. If Kripa Siddhi falls on your head, great. But there's nothing you can do. Whereas Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, the general pathway is Nishchay Phal Jana. The general pathway guarantees success. You do what you're supposed to do. Krishna will reciprocate because he's waiting to reciprocate. Krishna will never back out of his part of the contract. We have to do our part. He's waiting to do his part. But this is the general pathway. So, only when you understand that in the general pathway, you need to accept certain rules and you need to accept certain prescriptions and avoid certain prohibitions all the time with no exception. No, you're not so special that Krishna will give an exception for you. Nothing like that. None of us are special. We are criminals. We left Krishna's service and we are stuck in the material world. None of us are special. We are just faces in a crowd. That's what it is. So when we accept, look, this is what it is. This is what I am. I'm very sorry, my dear Lord Krishna. I'm sorry that I have made myself into a fool. Please help me. Then Krishna enlightens us through scripture, through the teachings of the previous perfect, pure devotees, the liberated acharyas, through Prabhupada, and so on, and through various devotees and even through non-devotees. But it is first of all very, very important to accept this, that there are rules of prescriptions, there are rules of prohibitions. And it is with that framework that you can progress through the general pathway and attain sadhana siddhi. We have to pray to Krishna for causeless mercy to attain sadhana siddhi, not wait for kripa siddhi. Conditioned souls are eligible to attain a very exalted position from a very low position. Between these two positions, there are many other positions. Each position is a gradual step. Each gradual step is a distinct level of advancement. Each and every gradual step has different prescriptions and prohibitions. Whenever a living entity steps to one level and stays there, he is obliged to follow the prescriptions and prohibitions of that step. By following those enjoined prescriptions and prohibitions, one becomes eligible to attain the next step. If one is unable to attain the next step, he falls down to a lower step. This is called degradation. Attaining the higher step is called advancement. To properly follow the precepts of one's own level is called one's prescribed duties or steadiness in one's own position. Steadiness in one's own position is piety, and deviation from one's position is impiety. Piety, auspicious. Impiety, inauspicious. There is no other piety and impiety than this. Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna spoke these instructions to Uddhava. Sve dhikare yanishtha sagunah parikirtitah viparyastu doshasya dubhayor esha nishchaya deshakaladi bhavanam vastunam mama sattama gunad dosho vidhi yete niyamartham ki karmanam. Steadiness in one's own position is declared to be actual piety, whereas deviation from one's position is considered impiety. In this way, the two are definitely ascertained. For saintly Uddhava, in order to restrict materialistic activities, I have established that which is proper and improper among all material things, including time, space, and all physical objects. Okay, so if you examine the life of Raghunath Das, who became Raghunath Das Goswami, and you see how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed him, you notice that at particular levels, there are particular prescriptions and prohibitions, which are different from prescriptions and prohibitions at higher levels. One man's food is another man's poison. What is food for a person at a lower level may be poison for the same person at a higher level. So there's no such thing as what is, except for pure devotion service unto Krishna or devotional service unto Krishna. That is universal prescription. Sinful activities and offenses, they need to be avoided. That is a universal prohibition. Except for this, these are common. At all levels, we need to engage in devotional service to Krishna and avoid sinful activities and offenses. That is common at all levels. But within particular levels, what is good for a particular person at a particular level may not be good at a lower level and may not be good at a higher level also. So it is very, very important to understand how to progress. Prescribed and prohibited rules are further divided into two categories, conditional and constitutional. The living entity is pure spirit. The prescriptions and prohibitions in the living entity's constitutional position are constitutional rules. But when the living entity is separated from his transcendental position, he accepts the designations given by the illusory energy and is entangled in this world. These are false designations. These designations are of many varieties, but the constitutional situation is one without a second. In this life, I am a human being, male human being. I have a certain experience. I'm born in a particular family. I have received a particular name. I have a certain set of psychophysical attributes. So corresponding to these, I would be having certain material duties to execute. Somebody else may be having a different name, different form, different qualities, different limitations, different karmic history. So he or she would have a different set of duties. These are referring to the material designations of specific conditioned souls. In the eternal state of the living entity, prema is the only prescription and envy is the only prohibition. To love Krishna is the only prescription. To never become jealous of Krishna is the only prohibition. This prescription and prohibition is subordinate to the living entity's eternal nature. The living entity imbued with prema and devoid of envy is the shelter of eternal rasa. Although rasa is of 5 varieties, still they are one undivided spiritual truth. The rules of that position are not to be discussed here. We must know only that this state is the eternal condition of the living entity. Although in the conditional state, the rules are of different types, still all the steps are divided into 3 principal categories. According to the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and all the Smritis, these 3 principal divisions are found: karma, jnana, and bhakti. In each division, certain prescriptions and certain prohibitions are enjoined. In the karma division, the rules of varnashram and the 10 supplementary samskaras, as well as regulative prayers, are prescribed. Sins and bad habits are prohibited. In the jnana division, sannyas, renunciation, detachment, and discussing matter and spirit are prescribed. Fruitive activities, forbidden activities, and attachment to sense enjoyment are prohibited. In the bhakti division, indifference, performance of activities favorable to devotion, following the prescriptions and prohibitions of the jnana division, and cultivating devotion service with the help of those prescriptions and prohibitions are prescribed. All activities opposed to the Lord, jnana, renunciation, attachment to sense enjoyment, conclusions opposed to devotion service, and giving up action are prohibited. So you can notice that there are 3 levels. That is adharma, and higher than adharma is karma. This is the lowest form of Vedic karma. Let me show it. So from the platform of adharma, one comes to karma dharma, then jnana dharma, then bhakti dharma. But strictly speaking, karma dharma includes certain elements of jnana dharma and certain elements of bhakti dharma. And then jnana dharma, certain elements of bhakti dharma too. But once one comes to this point, he has to avoid karma dharma. Please speaking, let me add this piece of information. Avoid dharma. Avoid. When one comes to the platform of bhakti dharma, he has to avoid jnana dharma as such completely. That means accept that which is favorable. That is always there. Another way of showing it, this is described by one acharya named Yamunacharya. He was the grand spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. Point out how he is described it. This is how he explains the essence of Bhagavad Gita. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he teaches the pathway by which one can come to Bhakti Yoga, pure Bhakti Yoga. But then he explains that yoga can be understood to be a combination of karma, jnana, and bhakti. Karma refers to material duties. Jnana refers to certain activities which yield self-realization. Bhakti refers to certain activities which yield God realization. Karma simply is regulated material activities. Then there is adharma, but adharma has to be given up. Dharma has to be given up. Now, he points out that in this combination, one might spend most of his time in karma. Then this entire combination is called karma yoga. Spending most of his time in executing his or her material duties. But that is mixed with the principles of Sattva-guna and bhakti, devotion service to Krishna, to the Supreme Lord. Higher than that is this. This combination is called Jnana Yoga. It spends more time in the Jnana activities. Then higher than this is this status, which is known as Bhakti Yoga. Now, one can also, as one progresses, then he gives up family life entirely and only executes activities in the mode of goodness and the activities of devotional service. And when he progresses even further, there's no time for these. He's exclusively engaged in the activities of devotional service. So this is a way by which one can progress. And I think this is doable because it doesn't say that you should immediately jump, give up everything and jump, but there are steps. Step by step we move up. Step by step we progress. So at a particular status, we should ensure that we don't go lower than this. It would be clearer if I put it this way. Okay, so this one goes up like this. So at any given status, let us say one has come to this status in his life. Let us say after he entered into family life, first decade is here, second decade is here, next decade is here, next decade is here, then next decade is here. Something reasonable to think about. So when he's here, he should not try to go down. He should become fixed. He should become fixed. Steadiness in one's position is called piety. He should become steady in that. That is very, very important. Because unless he's steady in that, you cannot go to the next step. Elsewhere, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that just like when you climb the stairs, you take one step at a time. You put 1 feet in one step, you become steady in that. Then you put your next step, you become steady in that. You proceed like that. When the conditioned soul advances by giving up his illicit activities or low-class character, then he attains the level of karma kanda. Such a person should remain in Varnashrama dharma and aspire to attain the level of jnana. This is his duty. He should remain in Varnashrama until he attains detachment from material activities by discussing the difference between matter and spirit and analyzing the nature of false ego. Otherwise, he becomes sinful. When that detachment is attained, then his higher qualification destroys his attachment to fruitive activities. But if that person still remains inclined to the rules of karma kanda, then he cannot make good advancement. The duty of one who has attained the level of jnana kanda is to remain fixed in knowledge. Until he attains a taste for devotion service, he should remain under the rules of jnana kanda. As soon as the qualification for devotion service manifests, he should give up his attachment for jnana kanda. Otherwise, he is guilty of niyama agraha, to be over eager to follow the rules and regulations. He is unnecessarily over eager to follow certain rules and regulations because he's supposed to progress. It's like you join a school, you're supposed to progress from one level to another. In India, we have standards. First year in school, you're in the first standard, then the next year you're in the second standard, then the next year in the third standard, and so on. You cannot say, I like the third standard so much, let me be in third standard for another 10 years. You're supposed to progress. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tavat karmani kurvita nirvidyate yavata madkatha shravanado va shraddha yavanna jayate. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity, satiated, bored. Of course, it is also clear that there is no question of dabbling with adharma. Fruitive activity is karma. Karma is millions of times better than adharma. Even sakama karma is millions of times better than adharma. Because one accepts the injunctions of Lord Krishna in the form of the Vedas. Tasmat karyam, tasmat shastram pramanante karya karya vyavasthitau. We understand what to do, what not to do from the Vedic Shastra. And has not awakened this taste for devotion service by Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulated principles of the Vedic injunctions. The word Shraddha appears here. So as soon as one attains Shraddha, then he is qualified to engage in bhakti, which means, let me go back to this, which means he can execute this. He's qualified to do this. But that Shraddha, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained in his commentary to Mukti Rasamrita Sindhu, refers to unbreakable faith in all aspects of bhakti. Unbreakable faith. Unbreakable faith with regards to Sambandha Videya Prayojana. You have developed unbreakable faith in the Vedic scriptures. That is preliminary anyway. Apart from that, you have developed unbreakable faith in the philosophical aspects of Krishna consciousness. You developed unbreakable faith on what is the actual goal of Krishna consciousness. You have unbreakable faith in the means to attain that goal. Unbreakable faith. Abhedya Shraddha. Unbreakable. If one does not have unbreakable faith in all aspects of Krishna consciousness, then he should just execute this, or if he is not even capable of that, he should execute this. He should serve those who are more advanced without duplicity, without diplomacy, submissively, superiors who have that unbreakable faith, then he will also progress. Shraddha or faith is the only qualification for bhakti. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tasman Madhukti Uttasya Yogino vai Manat Manaha Na Jnanam Na Chavairagyam Prayashreyo Bhavetiha. Therefore, for a devotee engaged in my loving service with mind fixed on me, the cultivation of knowledge and renunciation is generally not the means of achieving the highest perfection within this world. The temple of Krishna Prema is situated on the highest peak of Goloka Vrindavan. In order to reach that peak, one has to cross the 14 planetary systems of Karma Kanda, the Viraja Brahmaloka of the Jnana Kanda, and then rise above Vaikuntha. By gradually giving up attachment to the stages of karma and jnana, one becomes eligible for bhakti. After crossing the various stages of bhakti, one reaches the temple door of prema. Shraddha is the only rule for people established on the level of bhakti. As anarthas or unwanted habits are destroyed by the power of devotion service performed under the shelter of sadhu and guru, that shraddha transforms into devotion service with nishtha. Long A dash. Sadhu also A dash. Or firm faith. As the anarthas are further destroyed, one progresses from the level of nishtha to ruchi or taste, from ruchi to asakti or attachment, and from asakti to bhava. When bhava in the form of rati or affection is mixed with the appropriate ingredients, it becomes rasa. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Yatha yatha ma parimrijyate sau matpunya gatha shravana vidhanai Tatha tatha pashyati vastu sukshmam chakshu yathaivan janasam prayukta. When a diseased eye is treated with medicinal ointment, it gradually recovers its power to see. Similarly, as a conscious living entity cleanses himself of material contamination by hearing and chanting the pious narrations of my glories, he regains his ability to see me, the absolute truth, in my subtle spiritual form. Rupa Goswami clarifies the sequence in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as follows. Adau Shraddha, Tatah Sadhu Sangotha Bhajana Kriya, Tato Nartha Nivritti Syat. Tato Nishtha Ruchistata, Athasaktis Tato Bhavas, Tatah Premam Danchati, Sadhakanam Ayam Prema Radhur Bhave Pet Kramaha. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master. Under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness and self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the personality of Lord Shri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. The stages are here on the right. There are some additional stages in between or before or after, noted by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. First is Sadhu Kripa, the mercy of the Vaishnava saints. Pad Seva, service to the great souls. First of all, one has to have the mercy of a great soul. After one receives the mercy of a great soul, then one is given the eligibility to serve those great souls. And then from those great souls, we develop faith and enthusiasm, which is this unbreakable faith in all aspects of Krishna consciousness. Then Guru Padashraya, which is the same as Sadhu Sangha. One takes shelter at the feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Then he develops a hankering to engage in various activities of Bhajana Kriya or Bhakti Yoga, Bhajanesha Spriha. Then one engages in the various activities of devotional service, Bhakti or Bhajana Kriya. Then unwanted activities, desires and attitudes, they go away. Anartha apagama or anartha nivritti. Then one becomes steady. One's engagement in Krishna consciousness is uninterrupted. Then ruchi is for devotion service. Then asakti, attachment to the object of devotion service, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then rati, ecstatic love of God, same as bhava. Then one attains prema, pure love of God. And then one attains direct perception of the Supreme Lord, darshana. He meets the Lord. Then he attains Harer Madhuri Anubhava. He can experience the sweetness of Lord Hari's name, form, qualities, pastimes, etc. uninterruptedly, in full service. Premavat Parshatattva. He has attained the status of becoming an associate of the Lord who is filled with exclusive love for the Supreme Lord. There is also another sequence that appears in Haribhaktika Palatika. There are certain stages of spiritual progress which are noted here, which I thought was really interesting. Here. How can one attain devotional service, full-fledged devotional service to Krishna? First of all, one must have a fear of having to experience the miserable reactions, sinful reactions to the various forbidden activities that he has executed in this life. That is called paralokato bhayam. He has to have fear of what he is going to experience in his next life. That is the first stage. Atah punye matir jayate. Then one's mind turns towards piety. I must only do what is stated in the Vedas. I must accept only dharma. I must reject everything forbidden in the Vedas. I must reject sinful activities. Adharma. Sambhedas tata eva sadhushu bhavet. Tesham prasado dayat. Then, when one comes to the platform of piety, then by the mercy of the saints, then one mixes with them. Shraddhasyad bhagavat katha suchatato. Then he develops unbreakable faith in the teachings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the topics concerning the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktir viraktis tata. Then he engages in bhakti, the activities of bhajana kriya. Then viraktis tata. Then he attains renunciation. This is the same as our anartha apagama, anartha nivritti. Tattva jnanam. Then he attains realization of the absolute truths, which corresponds to our bhava. Amanda sandra paramanandam samudyotate. Then enlightening and concentrated, enlightening, complete delight arises. That is prema bhakti. So there are various stages. So when we progress in Krishna consciousness, we go through various stages. In the process of sadhana bhakti, there are 4 stages: Shraddha, Nishtha, Ruchi, and Asakti. Of course, this is an abridgment of the various stages. After passing these 4 stages, one comes to the level of bhava, which is the doorstep of prema. At the status of bhava, one begins to see the Lord. One begins to see the Lord. In prema bhakti, one uninterruptedly sees the Lord. But in bhava bhakti, one begins to see the Lord. Despite interruption, but one begins to see the Lord. According to the degree of faith, each level has different rules. As one leaves behind one level and progresses to the next, he should honor the rules of the latter and leave aside those of the former. Those who do not give up the rules of the previous level are bound by those rules like chains that do not allow him to proceed to the next level. In the process of devotional service, whatever rules are prescribed for each level are all subordinate to one principal rule. That general rule is given in the Padma Purana as follows. Smartavya satatam Vishnur vismartavyo na jatu chit sarve vidinishedhasyor etayor eva kinkarah. Remembering Krishna is eternal beauty. All other prescriptions mentioned in the Shastras have arisen from this main prescription. Forgetting Krishna is never allowed. All other prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras have arisen from this main prohibition. Keeping this main prescription in mind while advancing, the practitioner should give up his attachment for the prescriptions of the previous level and accept the prescriptions of the next level. Otherwise, he'll be guilty of niyama agraha, over eagerness for rules and regulations, and weak in reaching the next level. So the instructions of the bona fide spiritual masters will always be pertaining to our level. They will all be level specific. Is it good for a young man to marry in Krishna consciousness, or should he just become a renunciant in Krishna consciousness? That will depend on his level. That will depend on his level. Therefore, a bona fide spiritual master might tell him, no, you should marry. And if that disciple asks, but how can I deal with a woman? A woman will be naturally attractive to the mind of a man who is intimate with her. And then the Guru will say, no, she is a gopi, a devotee. She belongs to Krishna. And just as we honor the gopis, you should also take care of her. It's Krishna's property. Don't think she belongs to you. With the spirit of Yukta Vairagya, you marry her. Follow the rules and regulations. When he marries her, goes on, household life goes on. After a few decades, when he reaches 50, the same Guru tells the same disciple, what is this? You become a devotee of a woman? Asat Sanga Tyage Vaishnavachar, Stri Sangi hai asadhu. You're asadhu. You're addicted to your wife. It's time to give up. You become vanaprastha. Maya. You don't know. Read Bhagavatam 5th canto. Jada Bharata's teachings. Wife, children, they're all like jackals and foxes. Don't understand? Very dangerous. You become addicted, you become attached. You need to move forward. That's because now he has come to a particular level where he needs to move up. He needs to move up. Yeah. He needs to move up further. Probably move here. And then he will be instructed to move up. So all of these instructions are level specific. What is good and what is bad will depend on the level. The practitioner of devotional service must always remember this point. In the conclusion of Haribhakti Vilas, a special instruction is given in this regard. Krityan yetani tu prayo grihinam dhaninam satam likitani natu tyakta parigraham mahatmanam. Whatever activities are written in Haribhakti Vilas are mostly all meant for householders and rich devotees. All meant for householders who are rich devotees. There are no rules written for renunciates. There are no rules written for the great souls who have renounced their families. Also in the conclusion of the Haribhakti Vilaha, it is stated, Avashyam tani sarvani tesham tadritva siddhaye pragapekshyanni bhaktirhi sadachara eka sadhana. Although the rules for renunciates are avoided in this book, still renunciates should follow those rules in order to perfect their position. The behavior exhibited by the renunciate sadhus is proper behavior in this connection. That alone is to be followed. In other words, they should simply follow sadachara or the standard principles that benefit everyone, which is devotion service. So the renunciate should simply follow that, and that alone, that's all. That's all. They don't have to execute other activities that require bhakti. They should simply execute bhakti alone. Okay, I'll stop with that. Any questions? At Bhava, one begins to see the Supreme Lord, and Prema, one constantly sees the Supreme Lord. Does this mean that one should have a spiritual body in order to constantly see the Lord, or can he still have a material body and see the Lord? In Bhava Bhakti, one's spiritual body is getting manifested, and with the spiritual senses, he is able to perceive the Lord. So externally, he may have a material body, but he doesn't see the Supreme Lord through his material eyes. He sees that is Prema Bhakti. But that is also with the eyes of the soul. So basically, this one's own self is being activated. So he's able to perceive with the spiritual senses. Prem Gosundatu. Just a minute. Wait. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad. Prabhuji, my question is that what you read just last, that we should not be too attached to the rules of the previous level when we are advancing. But many times you have mentioned in the class that if we feel that things are not going properly or something, you should go back to the basic level like Shraddha and see where you stand with that respect to that level. So how do we understand this?
Yeah, if we imagine that I'm on the status of Bhajana Kriya, when in fact I don't even have unbreakable faith in Krishna, that's a joke.
But, then can you explain that particular regulation, how to understand that regulation, what was mentioned?
One should first of all understand one's status, where one is at. One should clearly understand where he is in Krishna consciousness. Not that we are all in some collective delusion that we are all going back to Godhead, and when we all die, we all go back to Godhead. What is this? It's a joke.
So in order to analyze, like suppose somebody wants to analyze my particular person's Shraddha level, what are the symptoms by which we can analyze, okay, he is having Shraddha, he is not having Shraddha? What are those symptoms for each level?
Well, at the status of Shraddha, one is fully surrendered unto the Lord. Charanagati is the external manifestation of internal Shraddha. Charanagati means one uninterruptedly executes 6 activities. Out of that, we have, he accepts everything that's favorable to Krishna. Whatever Krishna likes, he accepts. Whatever Krishna doesn't like, he doesn't accept, and so on. So the first 3 verses of Upadeshamrita itself has been categorized by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as belonging to Sharanagati. The simple way to understand whether I am on the platform of pure Shraddha is this. Do I uninterruptedly carry out the first 3 verses of Upadeshamrita as explained by Prabhupada? That's all. A simple thing. So if that is the case, yes, then we need to now look into the rules and regulations for Sadhu Sangha, which come in Upadeshamrita texts 4, 5, 6. Like that.
How does one develop this full surrender, like how things work in ISKCON? When we are, say, a new devotee or something, We are just guided a little bit, and then we are told to start chanting, and then you move up, and then
See,
you
Sharanagati is
move.
an internal phenomenon. Sharanagati is an internal phenomenon. An external, no third party can actually make you surrender into Krishna internally. Even Krishna doesn't do that. Even your guru cannot do that. Nobody can do that. I have to do it myself. You can lead a horse to the water. You cannot make the horse drink the water.
So that can come probably only by a Vaishnav's mercy or by Lord's mercy, right? Because we don't have that potential. We are not so pure, and we are
No, all of us have the potential to do everything needed to get back to Krishna. But I may not be interested in that. And only those who are interested will get it. Why should I, why should Krishna's, what does it mean? Let us say, like we know, Artho, Jigyasura, Arthati, Gyani. There are 4 categories. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan points out that's a 5th category. It's the last verses of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita talk about those who approach the Supreme Lord in order to attain liberation from material existence. So then there are 5 categories of souls who come to Krishna. And by Jnani here, he means Jnanavan Ma Prapadyate, that person, a person who's fully surrendered with full knowledge and in full pure devotion. He has full Sambandha Jnana. So then you have materialistic people who come to Krishna purely for material reasons. Artha, Arthati, Jigyasu. They want to learn something. The Jigyasu is an inquisitive person, is a person who wants to learn something. These are materialists. And then you have the 5th type who is seeking liberation. Then you have another type, the pure devotee, the one who is surrendering unto Krishna with clear understanding, knowledge, understanding. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. I am meant to serve Krishna. I'm wasting my time here. I'm actually meant to get back to Krishna. He's got that point very clear. So, Krishna is trying to attract everyone. But still, you have these various categories of people, different types of conditioned souls, different types of people who are there. So, it is a question of one's own interest. To what degree is he interested? Now, if one asks, what can I do to increase my interest? That is through submissive association with those who are pure. And Krishna as a Chaitya Guru will help. Krishna as a Chaitya Guru will help. The Supreme Lord as a Chaitya Guru, first of all, he'll help only those who are seeking pure devotion service unto him. Esham evanukampartham aham madhyanajam tamaha nashayami atmabhavastu jnanadipena bhaswata. Bhagavad Gita 10.11. I will dispel their darkness with the torchlight of knowledge. But only those people, only those who are interested in attaining me. If I'm not interested in attaining Krishna, Krishna will not enlighten me. Because I don't want. I don't want. I don't want means what? Then what can be done? So therefore, one has to individually work it out. Institution, all of this is a help. This is leading the horse to the water. This is not leading the horse to the water. But no third party can actually push me. I myself have to do it. I myself have to do it. That's all. All of this is bringing us close. That's all. But ultimately, individually, we all have to do it. The very fact that we have agreed to come so close to Krishna, to execute high intensity Krishna consciousness, itself is sufficient indication that we have a lot of interest. But Krishna is always demanding that we come to him fully and absolutely. That is for our good. It is for our good. So we should agree to move forward. So the symptoms are all there. Actually, you don't even have to look at Upadeshamrita. You can even look at just Bhagavad Gita, that's enough. We have the symptoms of a Sthita Prajna, a person in fixed spiritual consciousness. 2nd chapter. We have the symptoms of one who has transcended the 3 modes of material nature. 14th chapter. And then you have the symptoms of a devotee of the Lord, 12th chapter. So we can simply examine that much itself. Examine that much itself. On that, we should be able to get some idea. Am I progressing or am I regressing? Prabhupada says we should test ourselves to see whether we are progressing or we are not progressing. Very important. Very, very important. But I think that one of the major issues is for those who have various motivations, spiritual progress is slow. Artho Jigyasa Artharthi group, when do they come to the Jnani group? When do they upgrade themselves? Baladev Vidyabhushana says it takes many, many lifetimes. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Ma Prapadyate. After several lifetimes, the Artho Jigyasa Artharthi becomes a Jnani, then surrenders unto the Lord, and then he progresses in pure devotional service. Because he has all these desires. So if I have all kinds of material desires in the midst of my desire to progress in Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will first of all pay attention to fulfilling these material desires. And that takes time. I mean, lifetimes. So we are the ones who are delaying. Krishna is not delaying, we are the ones who are delaying. Swarna Madhav Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranams.
Dandat Pranams.
Prabhu, you explained about that Yamunacharya's levels of advancement, starting from karma, going up to pure bhakti. Yeah. On the very bottom, when people don't do any sinful acts and they do regulated activities and they follow scripture, and this bhakti component in this level, the bhakti component, does it only worshipping Supreme Lord, or does it also have some demigod worship also?
Demigod worship is part of karma.
Okay. So karma
but they also have, no, but they also will execute Vishnu Bhakti.
When you say karma yoga, yeah, sorry, when you say karma yoga means it is what sort of they have also worship demigod, also worship Supreme Lord, or
see, it is called karma kanda if you are here and you have no desire to progress.
Okay.
If you are here and you do want to progress, it's called karma yoga.
Okay.
Same thing.
So when they worship demigod, it's karma kanda. When they worship Supreme, it's karma yoga.
No, it's not like that.
Yeah.
In karma yoga, you want to come to the highest perfection.
Okay.
So right now you may be doing that, but you have a desire to move forward. You see, when you make the jnana activities predominant, then the karma activities will become subordinate. In which case you give up the. Even in karma, there are certain duties which are compulsory and certain duties which are optional. Demigod worship is an optional duty in karma. So first one gives up the optional duties. So he'll give up these optional duties. So when he comes to, for instance, this, he's still engaged in his material duties. But he does not have time for full-fledged karma like here. So he'll give up his optional duties. He actually gave up the optional duties even way ahead of, even before, much before. He gave it up. No time for that.
Thank you.
That is kamya karma, optional duties. Like that, there are so many optional duties. And in fact, the optional duties are what is attractive to the pious conditioned souls. But when one progresses, when one understands what he's supposed to do, then he understands that he should get out, And then he gives up, first of all, he gives up the optional duties. Gives up the optional duties. Okay, I have a question here. Infested with the Prince syndrome, dabbling into sinful activities have become normal. What is the hope for this predicament? Association. If one touches sinful activities, it will take several lifetimes. Several lifetimes. You simply touch sinful activity several lifetimes. Gone. Very dangerous. Prabhupada spoke about, that's why he said, if you want to progress in Krishna consciousness in 300 lifetimes, that is something else. But if you want to progress in Krishna consciousness and attain the highest goal in one lifetime, you give up all those things and you come and live with us. Give up all that. Just give up all that. This is why Prabhupada created centers. He created centers. He expected that people would give up things and join that temple. Give it up. You're not supposed to be like that for your whole life. You're supposed to give it up and join the temple and then progress further and become a renunciate. You have to give time to Krishna consciousness fully and absolutely. For that, Prabhupada created a pathway. Created a pathway. It's like coming to the airport and then deciding to just be in the airport whole life. Come to the airport. Oh, go. Go board the flight. Go. So Prabhupada created an arrangement. This is actually the gift of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who first envisioned it. He realized that even though theoretically Bhaktivinoda Thakur's injunctions for householder life, theoretically all of that can be followed, but in real life, very few devotees actually apply it. And progress, you're supposed to progress. Just like when you join a school, you're supposed to progress. You're not just supposed to be in the school. You're not supposed to every day go and come, and then for 10 years you are in a particular level. That's not. You're supposed to progress. That is why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, out of extreme compassion, he created a system by which they can progress. Okay, first of all, your householder, all right, fine. So first of all, you help the center. Associate. Submissively associate. Engage in Krishna consciousness. Study Krishna consciousness. Practice Krishna consciousness. Spread Krishna consciousness. Increasingly engage in devotion service. Then at a certain point, when you become a Vanaprastha, then you become a separated Vanaprastha. Then you join the center. For the woman, there are equivalent arrangements that are made that are made at home. And in Indian culture, in Vedic culture, that thing is there. It is understood that after a certain age, you are supposed to be fully focused on spiritual life. If a 60-year-old woman wants to put lipstick and go and dance in a ballroom, then people think, I mean, at least in the rural areas in India, they'll still make fun of you. Because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to focus on your next life. You're supposed to get out. You're supposed to get out. Anyway, we're going to die. In this world, there's only one thing we all know that will definitely happen. Our bodies will die. So, what's a big deal? Why not we prepare gracefully? So that's an arrangement. So this combination of Bhagavata Dharma with Varnashrama Dharma is a very useful combination. It's a very useful combination. It helps us progress. Move further on. Prem Gosundar Prabhu.
This Bhaktivinoda Thakur commentary which you are reading, it's available in Vedabase?
Yes.
Vedabase or folio, what's it? Offline or online?
Offline. Here it is.
Okay.
In fact, I derived that document from here only. Database, you can download it from the internet. I mean, offline database.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussions? We can have it on Telegram, unless there are some questions here. Okay, no questions?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhuji.